These Lost Cavern of Ixalan commander decks are some of the best precons I've ever played. Let's take a closer look at them. Hi, my name is DJ. You might have seen me online somewhere because I make videos for the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. Today, I want to take a look at the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander pre-constructed decks. Wizards of the Coast is bringing you this video to introduce these 4 commander decks and introduce some fun ways for you to play Commander in person and on Arena. More on that later. These Lost Cavern of Ixalan pre-constructed commander decks are awesome. And if you're looking to try one out, then you're going to need to know what they can do. So let's start with vampires. Blood Rites is a vampire tribal deck, and the Ruthless Commander is totally fine with sacrificing his own brethren for cards and demons. Clavelenyo, First of the Blessed, is 1 white-black for a 2/2 legendary creature vampire cleric. Whenever you attack, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon becomes a demon in addition to its other types. It gains, when this creature dies, draw a card, and create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. So I play a lot of vampires, and then when I attack with them, they become super problematic because if blocked and killed, they just upgrade into a free card and a 4/3 flying demon. Now, it might seem careless marching these vampires to their death or undeath, but we can bring them back. Cards like Redemption Choir, 2 white for a 3/3 vampire cleric with lifelink, with Coven, whenever a Redemption Choir enters the battlefield or attacks. If you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Carmen, Cruel Sky Marcher, 3 white-black for a 2/2 flying legendary vampire soldier. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Carmen, the Cruel Sky Marcher, and you gain 1 life. Whenever Carmen attacks, return up to 1 target permanent card with mana value less than or equal to Carmen's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. Dusk Legion Sergeant is 1 and a black for a 2/2 vampire soldier with menace. 1 and a black, sacrifice Dusk Legion Sergeant. Each non-token vampire creature you control gains persist until end of turn. This level of recursion means that there's always something to do, and your vampires tend to stick around. I love when this deck reaches a tipping point. You have so many different effects and creatures on the battlefield that your opponents have to do something, but they can't afford to board wipe because of all of the value you get once your vampires die. Imagine killing a fully buffed up Elenda's Hierophant or Elenda the Dusk Rose. Elenda's Hierophant is 2 and a white for a 1/1 vampire cleric with flying. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Elenda's Hierophant. And when Elenda's Hierophant dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is its power. Elenda the Dusk Rose is 2 white-black for a 1/1 legendary vampire knight with lifelink. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Elenda the Dusk Rose. When Elenda dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Elenda's power. So you can see how getting rid of your board and also getting rid of these really relevant creatures can leave you with an even bigger army. A board wipe could kill someone with the cards in this deck. Blood Artist, Cruel Celebrant, Falconwrath Noble, all of these drain life. And when you have a big enough board, this life drain can be enough to close out a game. When you get everything set up, you can just board wipe yourself. There are vampires in this deck that are free, instant speed sack outlets. So that Elenda that your opponents have been avoiding and purposefully not killing, you can sacrifice it yourself, spewing tons of vampire tokens onto the battlefield. That's fodder that you can use to drain your opponents out using these aristocrat strategies. And if we add one more piece to this puzzle, we activate a Dusk Legion Sergeant, and then suddenly everything that we sacrifice comes back again. That Elenda comes back again. We can sacrifice all of our coolest vampires, have them come back again just to sacrifice them again. You proceed to sacrifice everything, getting everything back because you've got ETB triggers, death triggers, card draw, demons the whole time, methodically draining each one of your opponents, sucking the life from the table. It is a super fun way to end the game. One way to get there, a piece of advice to play this deck, to try to pay attention to your curve. Try to get a low drop vampire onto the battlefield early so that when you deploy your commander, you can imbue that attacking vampire with the power that if it ever dies, you get that card draw and get that demon. Because that's the key to this deck, is getting a lot of value as you put your vampires into the graveyard and back out again. All right, let's take a look at our next deck. It's Dinosaurs. what's your favorite dinosaur?
Ankylosaurus.
Why is it an Ankylosaurus?
Because it hits other dinosaurs.
Is this a good one right here? Yes? Do you want that? All right, that's a seal of approval. It's a great deck. Unfortunately, my copy now has only 99 cards in it. Let's actually take a closer look, starting with the commander. Pantlaza Sunfavored is 2 red, green, white for a 4/4 legendary dinosaur. Whenever Pantlaza Sunfavored or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. To discover, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with that mana value or less. Cast it without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. This commander is great because it incentivizes you to play more dinosaurs. That's exactly what I want in a dinosaur deck. It also has this randomness factor to it. Discover's really fun because obviously you can hit another piece of mana ramp or you can hit the perfect card for that exact situation. And if you just happen to hit more dinosaurs, that's exactly what this deck wants. This is a great tribal ramp deck, and in fact, the ramp in this deck is top tier. And it needs to be in place because we have a rather high curve. But if we get up to our big drops, this deck's going to take over the game. But the discover mechanic on your commander means that it's not just a play big creature, attack with big creature. There's some fun and randomness to it. I was playing Pantlaza and I had a couple of dinosaurs out, but my best was a Quartzwood Crasher and a Regisaur Alpha. I was contemplating making a medium attack just to see if I could get through with a couple dinosaurs and get that Crasher's trampling trigger and generating another dinosaur to kind of like keep my board going. But I thought I should pre-combat Pantlaza because I have Dino Haste. So Pantlaza took my fine position, and with one cast, it took over the game. I discovered into Akroma's Will with my commander on the battlefield. And so I sent every dino in with insane invasion and protection and vigilance, and double strike meant that all of my damage was double, bringing the table super low, but also allowed me to double trigger my Quartzwood Crasher, making 2 new huge trampling dinosaurs. One random card off of my commander suddenly swung the game in my favor. It was fun. It was so fun. You know, if you go into this dinosaur deck thinking that all of your dinosaurs just smash face, by the way, they do smash face, you're not entirely right because there are a ton of dinosaurs now that have great utility, like dinosaurs that kill things, dinosaurs that combat artifacts and enchantments, like dinosaurs that draw cards. And so the expansion of the dinosaur tribe has made this deck really fun and flexible enough to hang with all the other commander decks out there. My tip to get the most out of this deck is hit your land drops. The coolest dinosaurs, they cost a lot of mana, and if you stumble on lands, they're gonna be stuck in your hand when they ought to be on the battlefield terrorizing your opponents. Let's move on to the next deck, which is pirate themed. Ahoy Mateys is a pirate deck designed to pillage and make treasure, led by Admiral Brass Unsinkable. Admiral Brass Unsinkable is 2 blue, black, red for a 3/3 legendary human pirate. When Admiral Brass Unsinkable enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may return target pirate creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains haste until end of turn. By the way, creatures with finality counters on them get exiled if they were to die. The commander can get a pirate back from the graveyard, rebuying those synergistic enter the battlefield effects, getting you treasure, ramp, card draw, removal, all of the great things that pirates do. And I really like that Admiral Brass immediately gets a pirate onto the battlefield and attacking. A lot of times upgraded too, because pirates are usually smaller, so bringing them back as 4/4s is pretty good. Also, these pirates are going to attack pretty well because most pirates have some sort of evasion, a lot with menace, some with flying, some just plain old unblockable. Dealing damage is great, and you can deal a ton with this deck, especially if you pump the power of your pirates with shared animosity, pumping the power for each attacking pirate. With Angrath's Marauders, the biggest pirate in this deck, it's a 7-drop, 5 red for a 4/4 human pirate. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Woo-hoo-hoo. You combine this with a pirate like Portraiser. Portraiser is 3 red for a 4/4 orc pirate. Whenever Portraiser deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. Portraiser can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn. That's great in a multiplayer format, and it's especially great if your shared animosity is triggering with each attack. It'll make things bigger and bigger, and your Marauders will double up all of the damage. Swashbuckling your friend's life total is good and all, but I actually like the little bits of advantage that this deck can give you. Things like spells and treasures and cards. The Indomitable is an amazing vehicle. This can be combined with Biden of Thassa. It means that every single pirate that deals damage, that gets you a card. And I already mentioned the great evasion that's in this deck. And remember, you can just send your pirates in. If your opponent set up blocks, that's fine, because you're always going to be getting through for that damage and through for that card advantage. And then your commander is going to be ready to bring them back again, this time as 4/4s. My favorite play with this deck is using creatures like Coercive Recruiter and Captivating Crew. These are pirates that steal your opponent's creatures, that you can attack them back with it. I really like that it can remove a relevant blocker, and then you're turning their creatures against them. I've had them crash in for huge damage, but I really like combining with Broadside Bombardiers. Let me give that a read. Broadside Bombardiers is 2 red for a 2/2 goblin pirate with menace and haste. It has boast. Sacrifice another creature artifact. Broadside Bombardiers deals damage equal to 2+ the sacrifice permanent's mana value to any target. So that huge dinosaur that you stole from your opponent isn't just one less blocker for them, isn't just crashing in for damage, but you're going to be sacrificing it to the Broadside Bombardiers and throwing that huge mana value +2 right at your opponent's face. Pro tip, you need to boast in combat, but there's a time when you are still in combat, but after that stolen creature has already dealt its damage. So, attack, deal the damage, but before you go into your second main phase, activate that boast to throw the dinosaur into your opponent's face. And finally, we have Merfolk. Explores the Deep. This is a blue-green Merfolk deck that can curve out into a board that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The Merfolk commander in this deck is Huckball of the Surging Soul. 2 green-blue for a 3/3 legendary Merfolk scout. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk creature you control explores. Explore is revealing the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on the exploring creature. Then put that card back on top of your library or into your graveyard. Whenever Huckball of the Surging Soul attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you don't, draw a card. So a sea of merfolk across the battlefield, each one of them exploring, getting that +1/+1 counter. It's an anthem that keeps building on itself every single turn. But it's all of the other counter synergies in this deck that really supercharge this ability. Hardened Scales and Branching Evolution support your counter theme with extra counters. The Explore mechanic will make sure that you have enough lands to trigger an Evolution Sage, proliferating more counters, which are also impacted by these enchantments, and your commander lets you drop a second land so you get a trigger again, which proliferates and is affected by these enchantments. With each merfolk you make, this chain reaction of value and counters keeps going. So I set up this crazy scenario of cards, hoping to demonstrate how many +1/+1 counters I can generate. And I actually generate too many +1/+1 counters, because as I move, this will cause each merfolk to explore. So if I explore, I'm actually going to explore twice. So I'll do the first explore. That's going to put 2 +1/+1 counters on that because of Hardened Scales. But then I have another Explorer. But wait a second, I just explored a non-land permanent, so instead of 1 counter, I'll put 2 counters on this. Now time for my second Explorer. I'll put 2 counters on this, and then I explored a non-land permanent, so 2 more counters go on that. Now I'm going to go over here and explore. This time I'm going to put this into the graveyard. This will end up getting 2 counters. This will end up exploring again. This time I'll have a land, and so I won't put a +1/+1 counter on it, but I will be able to put a land onto the battlefield. If I put this onto the battlefield, then my evolution sage will trigger, and this will allow me to put 2 counters on each of these all the way up. And then this still has the opportunity to explore again. So if I reveal something, I don't even want to play this. It's too much math. So then if I go this will get up to 6. And then I explored another time over here. This gets up to 8. And now if I were to attack, I can put a land onto the battlefield, proliferating 2 more counters on all of them again. The amount of counters and value is too much to wrap your head around. This deck is a synergistic engine of placing counters, of manipulating merfolk, creating merfolk tokens, casting from the top, casting at instant speed, putting lands onto the battlefield. It feels like there's so much to do all of the time. It's fantastic. But one of the best aspects of this deck is the reach. Herald of Secret Streams. 3 and a blue for a 2/3 merfolk warrior. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. How about Mist Dancer? 4 and a blue for a 3/3 merfolk wizard with flying. Other merfolk you control get +1/+0 and have flying. This also has Encore for 5 blue. So from your graveyard, you can bring these guys back, attacking each one of your opponents, giving +3/+0 and flying to all of your board. So good. And then also Wave Goodbye. 2 blue for a sorcery. Return each creature without a +1/+1 counter on it to its owner's hand. That's just as good as creating unblockable for your entire army. So big effects, able to push that damage through, killing your opponents. My advice for getting the most out of this deck is to value the protection spells in here. Spells like Ripples of Potential and Inspiring Call. Those are going to protect your battlefield so you can keep your synergistic engine running. Also, recovery spells like Deeproot Historian and Bygone Marvels. Those are going to let you recover when your opponents interrupt your important pieces that build up your board state. I love tribal decks, and these 4 work so well together. They have their own feel to them, and they're all individually powerful, but also accessible. I think they strike a really good balance, and you can bring one of these precons to any commander table and have them hang. That's how well balanced they're built. This video is brought to you by Wizards of the Coast because there's a party going on at a local game store near you this weekend. And just for participating, you could get some of these legendary creatures on Arena. I know that you want to play Brawl with some of these commanders. The Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander Party event is at Wizards Play Network stores between December 15th and December 17th. You can find out which stores near you are participating by using the companion app. These decks are fun. Magic players are some of the best people, so get yourself to a local game store, play some Magic, make some friends, get some free arena perks, and have a great time. All right, everyone, my name is DJ. You can see me online in the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, but you might also see me at a local game store piloting one of these decks. See you around.